Today marks a very special milestone, the 1-year anniversary of the Inside Show. It also happens to fall on my mom's birthday. So if you're watching this, happy birthday, Mom. I love you so much. Over the past year, we've had the honor of sitting down with 50 incredible guests, brilliant minds who generously shared their stories, knowledge, and insights with us all. A massive thank you to our headline sponsor, Binance, for believing in the vision. We couldn't have gotten here without you. And to our associate partner, Black Crown, for their deep care and commitment to the creative industry. And most importantly, thank you to you, the community watching, liking, sharing, and supporting the show. This week, we're doing something a little different. We've pulled together some of the most inspirational moments and powerful perspectives from the past year. We're just getting started. Here's to building even further. Thank you.
Building a brand takes very long.
Start small, start with some things.
Be kind to yourself. Doing an idea doesn't mean all the way.
I started the thrift store online
I love
2016.
the idea of creating a persona.
You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah. Focus on the craft.
I hope you learn how to forgive yourself.
When Amapiano and Afro House had a baby,
South Africa is such an important part and story to Soul Action and to me.
Every year's the head to wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.
Building a brand takes very long. You know what I mean? It takes very long. It doesn't happen overnight. I think I've been at it for 14, 15 years now. And only recently, 2-3 years ago, that's when I started making money.
Amazing.
That's when I could actually pay myself a salary, you know.
Incredible, man.
Look for a car,
Yeah.
you know, think of things like that.
Just the basic things
Yeah.
of like, yeah.
After
that's
10,
amazing.
12 years, that's the only time I could.
So know you're getting yourself into a 10, 15-year journey minimum.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Minimum 10, 15 years
Yeah.
before you can actually start seeing any profit or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, start as soon as you can. Put in the hours every day. Also, a lot of kids are afraid of putting out stuff. Like, what if they don't like it? Or
Or if they steal my design.
yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So even people that do music or whatever,
Yeah.
just put out the song, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what could you lose?
100%.
You know, put out the song, hear what the people are saying, go back, fix the song, make it better. That's how you do it. You'd rather make something better when it's outside in the universe instead of in your bedroom. 'Cause
Yeah.
in your bedroom, no one sees it. Only you see it. So rather put it out. People see it, they give opinions, you go back to the drawing board, make it better until you feel like, no, this is something, you know, you can push forward. You understand? So yeah, don't be afraid to put out stuff. You know, no one can do anything to you. That's your thing. You know what I mean? And also, a lot of the guys base their things on talent. Yeah, talent is needed. You know, designs. You have to be a good designer or have a good eye, etc. But to jump over the bridge, you have to know the business. You know, research the business. Build a structure, try to build a team. You know, you can't do everything alone. Get people to help you further your dreams. You know, like an artist, they need a manager to find them gigs, etc. All you have to do is work on the music, etc. So, yeah, find people like that to help you. You know, even if it's your friends, you must know your friends. Okay, he's good at this, he's good at that. You know, yeah, then build a team and move forward.
Identify the people around you that identify their skills, right? And then also just their compatibility of like how you guys relate.
Yeah.
And what would you say is the most important like creative endeavor you embarked on?
Honestly, it's gonna sound corny. The most creative endeavor I embarked on was understanding that the best thing I could do is discover myself, you know? everything from the outside or what happens in clothes or in sports or in entertainment are all byproducts of the search that happened inside.
Yes.
And that search that happens inside is not nice.
Yeah.
You find out good things about yourself, you find out bad things about yourself. But that walk you can do for yourself, with yourself on the inside is what gives birth to everything on the outside. And that is the hardest one. It's easy to assimilate to other people, but it's hard to find your voice and yourself. And when you find it, stick to it, even when the world is telling you the opposite.
Yeah.
So for me personally, the road I walk in here, and through here is really the most hectic creative endeavor.
Bro, a few more questions before we wrap up.
No doubt.
If you could send a message, obviously all caps, let's say 160 characters, whatever it is. If you could send a message and that message would be sent to every single person on planet Earth, what would that message say?
George, I knew this was coming. Love is the frequency. I hope you learn how to forgive yourself. Eat well. Be able to sleep well and sleep like you are dead tired, pun intended. Wake up like anything's possible. Yeah, love, sleep, wake up, eat well, get some sun, chase real dopamine. You know, the clothes are great, the cars are great, but get that sun. Use the earth more than you use your phone.
Spitting bars.
And as I say it, you know, I'm also trying to practice it. I'm not perfect at it, you know. And that's a thing with talking, or because I also used to be a preacher, and you realize that as you preach, not only are you talking to them, but you're also reminding yourself, you know, of things. But yeah, the earth has got everything we need, and we don't use it enough. We don't.
I love that, bro. That's powerful.
I don't think like it's something that people like expect or like to hear, but it's like you gotta take the slow road, a slow burn. Don't rush it. Like focus on your craft. Like the brands are always gonna be there. The money's there's always gonna be money.
Yeah.
But like focus on your craft. Like, and I always like the one thing in life is not just art the creator. It's like the lucky people get one chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people don't get this shot, but like. You don't fumble it. Like the worst thing is you don't want to get your shot when you're not ready. You know what I mean? You get the feature, you get to put on, but like the back end, the business, the internal infrastructure, how your business is handled is not there. You know, so now the opportunity is gone. So I was like, yo, breathe, enjoy, smell the roses, focus on your craft, and just be. It's a cliche, right? But I'm not shy, so I love a good cliche. But it's like, yo. You're the only you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
Tap into that. Like, you have your own experiences, and find your audience and cultivate a community, service a community. Because there are artists in the world that make millions of dollars without never having a song on the radio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, absolutely.
You know in the business,
100%.
people that tour in places that you never think their music. You know what I mean? Like, always are making money playing in Bulgaria, you know, these festivals 100%. And like, there's many ways, you know, to earn a living with your art, and like explore those, like focus on your craft, you know, and I guess that's it. Like,
I mean, there's the theoretical stuff, which is like, you know, learn as much as you can, collaborate with people, hire people. It's like, no, in real life, it's really difficult to have the money to do all of that or to have the time to do all of that. But at a practical level, I think it's, yeah, fine, I built this business without a business plan, but have a plan. And it doesn't have to mirror a business plan that has SWOT analysis and 3-year vision. No, it's just to say, how am I intending on getting to milestone 1 and then milestone 2 and 3 and 4? If you don't have what am I doing? How am I going to do it? Why am I doing it? Who am I going to do it with? Where am I doing it? Then what are you doing? If you can't answer that, you already have a problem. And a lot of people I find are running agencies. Oh, I'm a digital agency. But do you understand what digital is? And then what a digital agency does and how they do it and how much they do it for? If you don't have a plan to answer all of those questions, then you have a problem. So it's to put a plan together that answers just those basic questions: when, where, why, how, who, and what. And then I think be diligent and disciplined in executing that plan, because there are 365 days in a year, 24 hours in a day, but you can waste so much of that time just floating around, hoping for opportunities to come your way because you just didn't have a plan. 2, read. Information is there. In the age of the internet, there's no excuse. In fact, in the age of TikTok, there's no excuse for not knowing how to do something. Yeah. The information is there. It's probably just on page 7 of the Google search. But because you didn't find it on page 1, you decide, no, I can't find the info. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. It's there. Spend time reading. Yeah. Go deeper. And our parents did that. Our parents were able to learn so much because they read so much. Ask questions. Ask people. Don't be embarrassed to ask. So it's just to say, be thirsty for knowledge and really disciplined in acquiring that knowledge, because unfortunately, to do the work we do as agency owners, as creatives, as whatever, you actually have to know something. You have to know how to do it. And I think thirdly, respect the money. Respect money. Whatever money you get, use it wisely. A lot of people know this, that I had money in the bank account. I had 90,000 Rand. I don't want to speak about the million. I had 90,000 in the account. And I was taking taxis. I was taking a taxi to Global Access in town at Absa Towers from Sunning Hill every day, sleeping on my father's couch. I could have taken that money, say, oh, I'm up. I'm going to go get a townhouse. I'm going to go do my thing. But because I respected the money to say, I'm going to need this money to make me my next 90,000 Rand. And then when I had enough, I was able to say, okay, now I'm up. Now I can actually afford to go and have expenses. So respect the money, because that's what builds businesses, money.
Firstly, I just want to know, in terms of events, do you have a bit of a formula in terms of, like, let's say half of your expenses maybe must be covered by sponsorship or artist fees must be covered by ticket sales? Do you have some sort of high level formula that, people out there that are running shows and sort of just things they can work towards to build out a successful event?
Look, I think number one, and I keep bringing it up, is like passion, but also understanding the artist, the market, and understanding in your view how many tickets you believe this artist can sell. Yeah. So there's the ticketing strategy that you need to obviously understand, you know. Then it's about the venues. How many venues, how many people do you think that this artist could obviously fill within the space? Then it's understanding the market deeper to understand the ticket price, right? How much do you think this artist could sell a ticket for? Yeah. Then it's obviously, because that's the agent who's going to ask you these questions. Yes. Okay, what is the capacity? Yes. What is the venue? Yes. What is your offer effectively? Yeah. So that's kind of the starting point to really understand the artist. Then it's a matter of, for me, understanding the brands that are out there. I put my kind of like brand hat on to think, okay, cool, this can be a really good fit for this brand because, they're playing in the space. But it's no guarantee, because it's very rare that they work concurrently that, you know, you book an artist and the brand comes on at the same time. A lot of the
100%.
time you got to put your best foot forward, book the show, go out there, you know, push it as much as you can and hope that the sponsors, you know, get on board and you can offer the campaign and vehicle strong enough for them. So there's
like that with or without your energy, right?
It's exactly that. And if you're going to just wait all the time for the brands to come on board, it's not going to happen, to be honest, you know. So you've got to have some guts. You know, you got to believe in the artist, you got to believe in the show, you got to go out there and make it happen. So I think run your numbers closely, you know, work with people that know the space well, try and really like dig into the budgets, you know, and really understand like how many tickets it's going to sell to like actually put the show at risk. Understand the risk that you're going to have. How much money can I lose if this whole thing goes belly up? Can I afford it?
Yeah.
You know, obviously you want the sponsors to come on board and cover as much as they can.
Yeah.
And when the campaign and the vehicle is strong enough to do it, you know, it can make great sense and they can come on board with a good amount depending on how it's structured and what value it is for them and intrinsically what it does for that brand. But there's obviously these different layers of sponsorship. There's pouring rights deals, there's campaign deals, there's just infrastructure deals, there's activations, there's full through the line media. So sorry, I'm going about a roundabout way here. It's difficult to give an answer.
No, it's a really good answer because you're taking it a lot deeper into different levels.
But ultimately, when making that offer to that artist, you know, you've got to be realistic. You know, look, our biggest challenge is South Africa is our economy, right? And 9 times out of 10, we're pitching and we want artists out there that, you know, are touring the world, getting paid big money in US dollars or, you know, all these big currencies.
Yeah.
So you really got to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is how much is available. This is what is possible.
Yes.
And you really got to paint the picture well for the artists, you know, that you can deliver the show and give them an incredible experience. I mean, there's one thing also before, which I'd like to mention, is Bridges for Music.
Yeah.
So Bridges, I'm on the board. You know, we kicked it off 10 years ago when we brought Skrillex out here the first time.
Yes.
And what Bridges has become is this beautiful vehicle for electronic artists and all artists from around the world that come here and tour, that get into like the community and get involved with the charity. And, you know, we've had everybody from Skrillex to Ed Sheeran to Coffee to Luciano, Loco Das, gosh, RyX, you know, everybody that comes down and like gets involved with the school. But where I'm going and why I'm going back to that is when touring these artists, we can't compete financially with a show in Vegas.
100%.
It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So again, you got to like paint the picture for them. You know, a lot of these guys want to come inside and do something for Africa. The beauty is Africa's like the kind of the word at the moment, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And you got to make sure that you can deliver an incredible show for them at the end of the day, that the artists have a good time and just don't lose everything.
Yes. So it's like also just make it, you know, the monetary wise, you might not be able to compete with a bigger market, but make that offer a little bit more enticing.
Yeah.
And involvement in the country and spaces and really make it as meaningful as possible to.
Exactly.
And you've done that so well, you know?
Thanks, man. And you just got to be honest with the agents and guys like, look, that's the capacity of the venues. This is the amount of tickets that need to be sold. You know what I mean? This is the ticket price.
Yeah.
You know, and based off that and working backwards on the calcs, I can make X amount of offer. And that's it. And on top of that, you know, we'll do our best to get great content. We'll, you know, take them into Bridges. We'll take them on a tour. We'll try throw in a safari. You know, these types of things that make this African experience really special.
Much better,
you know, for agents touring artists, routing is crucial.
Yeah,
you know? So right now, you know, the next evolution needs to be opening up Africa to these artists, because 100%. To be in Europe over a weekend, you can do 5-6 shows over a week. You know, you come to South Africa, you're out.
Got 3 shows max if you're lucky. You know,
so you know we must open up Africa.
Yes,
we must open up everywhere from Kenya, Botswana to as many different territories as possible, you know, 100%. Because then the artists and the agents will want to come here and it'll make more sense for them to tour here.
Anything else you want to leave people with, bro?
It's never too late to start over.
I love that.
Always remember, only you know what happened. You don't have to preach the negative and the bad experience of what happened to you to the world. It doesn't have to be your truth. Wayne Dyer said, if you want to know how much you've changed, just look at a picture of yourself as a 5-year-old and then ask yourself, who's that person? That's how much you've changed. And you can still change, reinvent yourself, try hard, accept your failures, but don't dwell on them. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and just live for a living.
I love that, bro. Thank you so much.
And I've kind of had this weird relationship with the universe insofar as when I start to feel like I don't belong somewhere, the universe will quickly conspire to make sure I'm not there.
I love that.
You know, so at that time, the company I was working for gets sold. And let's just say that the new owners were wanting to head in a different direction, and I didn't want to head in that direction either. So I found myself needing to kind of ask myself what I wanted to do with my life. And a friend of mine, by the name of Shagar Sisulu, around 2008, asked me a question that would take me 6 months to answer. He said, what would you do for absolutely no money? And I think it might have been a throwaway question for him, but for me, it really talked to, so what am I here to do? What's my purpose and what's my passion? Like, what is the thing that I will do when it's not sexy to do it, right? And I spent the next 6 months literally thinking about that question. And I came to 2 answers. Answer number 1 was I was passionate about developing people. And the second answer was I was passionate about music. And because I'm ops guy, I have to be evidence-based and I need to be able to find the evidence in my life.
And results. And
exactly. So like I look back and I said, so if I'm really passionate about people, show me evidence. And I looked at like how I always had this knack for whatever management role I had. I always looked for the diamond in the rough and I always made it a point of mine to polish that diamond and change people's trajectories. And the second part of that question is naturally, well, kind of answers itself. Everything I did outside of corporate was around musicianship.
Yeah.
Around 21, I also had tried my hand at managing some mates who wanted to be in music. I think I was always clear that I always wanted to be in the background. And then I remember that was like around month 4 where I got those 2 answers and I was like, so what with this? And then 6 months, around the 6-month mark, it was like, if I merge these 2 things into one thing for me, what does that look like? And it was like, oh, okay. What if I was to get into the space where I put my money where my mouth is? Because I would always look and say, this person could have done this and that and this with their career. What if I was to be that person who's shaping people's careers in that way? And that's actually how Dream Team Talent Management, at least the seeds of it, were born. Because once that aha moment came about, the universe conspired to bring in some incredible individuals who had known my whole life, but who came in at the right moment where we could build together.
Wow. And that's such an important thing, right? That timing is,
exactly.
You know, you can know one another, but that moment of everything conspiring to go like, now's the time is like a really special thing.
Exactly. And I remember, and I think I might have met you through him, George, Wandin Zimande, Loction Culture?
Yes. Young promoter who's listening to this podcast now. And
give the same advice that Ricardo gave.
I'd love to hear
the question.
Yeah, 100%. So if someone is stepping into this world now, whether they have a Friday night event or they are servicing brands and they want to build their own IP, I think this is where you're very strong. And then I'd also love to get into sponsorship with you in a second. But what is some advice you would give someone stepping into this realm right now?
You know, I think honestly, a little bit like Ricardo, I would say don't unless you absolutely have to. And the only reason I say don't is my genuine belief is, and it wasn't like this when we started. You'll remember, if we could do R1 million in tickets, the event used to cost 300,000 Rand to produce 15 years ago. It isn't like that anymore. Now you've got to spend 4 million Rand producing the event and you might do 4.2 million in ticket sales. The game has changed, but the risk hasn't changed. If the wind blows, your event can get cancelled. If there's a strike, your event cannot happen. And the problem is you don't get to then clean the floor and open your event the next day like a restaurant does. So I just say come in very calculated, because you've got to have a very high appetite for risk. You've got to have a certain chromosome. You've got to have a serious do or die attitude that you want this. And if you want it that badly, you know, I think then my advice is to really, I'm very in favor of building brands, because for me, I only want to be involved in events that happen every year. To do, you'll even know this. There's a lot of hard work, like your comedy tour with Trevor Noah. It's 2 years of hard work. I think you've got longevity because of your partnership with him. But for you to have done that once, you need a team, you need resources. And now if that doesn't happen next year, what are you really building? I want to build a long-term sustainable business that has got legacy, that can look after me, look after my family. Maybe one day it's for sale. That's not in the current plan, but it can create legacy for the people that grow in it. So to me, the only way to achieve that is if you look at what's happening in the Superstruct, Live Nation, Tomorrowland Worlds, IDNTs. They bought brands that recur. So I would go after, even if you start small, it's a supper club and it's once a month on a Friday.
I love that.
Brand it, invest the time in it, make stationery materials that feel like it, tell its story, write its story, make a brand, because that brand might start as a supper club on a Friday night and it might end up as a festival of 3,000 people. It might end up as, who knows, a corporate might buy into it for a 3-year period to do it for their staff. Whatever might come of it, but you own it. So I think that's the first thing. I think ignore the bullshit in our industry. I think there's some heavy egos out there. The bark's bigger than the bite. Don't worry about them. Do you?
That's powerful, man. I love that. That's really, really strong advice.
Yeah.
I think my mind was always racing. My mind is always racing. I've always been someone who had so many things going on in his head, so many ideas. I can't keep track of them. I can't keep them calm. But the easiest way I've been able to keep them calm is by doing it, because sometimes you have an idea, you suppress it. And doing an idea doesn't mean all the way. It's just that when it comes, write it down that you did something. When an idea comes, sketch it. You did something. You articulated it. There's a release. So sometimes they get pent up, and so I've learned how to do that. So I tell him to do that much earlier. Just like when you get some ideas, articulate them, say them, voice them out. You don't keep them in. And the world opens up when you release an idea into the world, physically, whether it's verbally, but something unravels. So I think I would give that advice to anyone. Whenever you have an idea, articulate it, voice it out, just start.
Just action.
Action.
Put an action on it.
Put an action on it. Any kind of action. Like, put yourself accountable. Like, when you write it down, you open that sketchbook at some point, you're like, oh, I didn't attend to you. But a thought is much more fleeting. This is not reliable, but all of you is reliable.
What advice will I give to a younger version of me? Right. Firstly, you are who you've been waiting for. Yeah. You have to save yourself because no one will. But in this journey, it's important to understand that you will meet people who are going to challenge you for the better and for worse. But at the end of the day, it's going to be for your growth. You work with people who struggle to work with other people. At times you'll have to lower yourself. Well, most of the time you have to lower yourself. And I think this is good for the ego, because my journey is not just, yes, I'm working on a material plane, we're working with styling, I'm making garments, but it's also spiritual, and I've learned to surrender, to the calling. Sometimes you work with people who don't treat you fairly, but you just allow it. And what I've realized with my life is that whenever I lower myself, then the source tends to, take me to another level. When you lower yourself, God takes you to another level. You just need to surrender to the calling. And there are times you might feel like you're being attacked, but maybe there's a teaching there. Maybe your ego needs to die. Always ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me about myself? What is it that I need to work on? But at the end of the day, you have to save yourself. Yeah, man. And when you sacrifice, when you now surrender to the calling or this thing of yours that you believe in, when you put in time, when you put in energy, when you put in your money, there will come a time in your life where now every day feels like Christmas. You just need to surrender. Throughout this journey of trying to be a stylist, a designer, I do not have credential for such, but I was able to manifest that dream, that reality. So anyone who's watching or listening to this, who's watching this, that you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one will. You have to save yourself. If you're working in an environment where you don't feel happy, you don't feel acknowledged, and you've got a dream, you've got a talent or skill, you have to surrender to it. You have to let go. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenging road, but it's going to be worth it at the end of the day.
That's incredible, bro.
Outside of my work, I would really just want to be remembered as somebody who provided positivity, optimism, opportunity, and great energy. I think there's so many amazingly talented people that are still alive and in our history who are absolute assholes. And yes, they've left a wonderful body of work or a legacy of music or literature or architecture or film, but nobody has nothing nice to say about them.
Yeah, so true, man.
I pride myself on being extremely empathetic and sensitive and caring. And if I can walk into a space and contribute to the frequency in a positive way, if I can put a smile on somebody's face during the day, if I can help people in situations that I was maybe in or who are less fortunate than me, that's what I want to be remembered as. And then oh yeah, he was a fucking sick artist by the wayside. That's just a bystander, but he was a great person. That guy made me feel fantastic. He believed in me. He gave me an opportunity. He helped me when nobody else did. That for me is enough, bro.
If you were to give some advice to, let's say, the 18-year-old version of you, so again, let's maybe wear two hats, someone who's stepping into the corporate side of the industry and someone who's stepping into, and maybe it's the same advice. I'll leave that up to you, bro. But what is some advice you would give to someone, whether they're starting a podcast, whether they're stepping into their work-life journey? What is the advice you would leave someone and you would leave with your 18-year-old self?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question. Very good question, because I feel like what I tell my 18-year-old self will be what I tell myself even today. For real, it's just something that we always neglect to do. Really focus on the craft. Everything else doesn't matter, bro. When you focus on the craft, everything takes care of itself, and it's something that I have ashamedly sometimes deviated from. You know what I mean? You get caught up in life, you know what I mean? And it's human to live life and be caught up in nonsense, that you shouldn't be caught up in. I think I would just tell 18-year-old me is really, you do have to put your blinkers on. We villainize blinkers for too long, Have your tunnel vision when it comes to the work, because it's going to take you further than trying to play people politics. I think that's what I think the thing about it is that forget the people politics, focus on the craft, and when you grow, you understand what people politics is, especially in corporate structures, especially in street culture as well. You know what I mean? Forget about getting on guest lists and going to parties, whatever. Forget about that, bro. Work. You know what I mean? And the work will speak for itself, and the work will get out and take you to other places, bro. because everything that's gotten me to a place of positivity was work related, bro. You know what I mean? Salam didn't know me like that. He just knew my work. He just knew our work, and he invested. You know what I mean? Like when you send your resume to a corporation to apply for a job, you're putting your work there. You know what I mean? Yes, you have references, but your references are gonna speak about your work. So everything, just put it into the work and silence everything else. It's one of the most basic rules that everybody tells you, but you just somehow neglect to really think about or really implement as well. So
I would love to know, Leboyam, what is the meaning of life? What do you think is the meaning of the whole design that we are all taking part in?
I'm 60, but I'm still trying to figure that thing out.
I love that.
I'm 60 years old. I spend 99% of my life trying to pay bills and have a living and have a job and have a career. I'm pretty sure I'm approaching the time in my life and career, maybe 10, 15 years from now, I will maybe even have a hint what that is. But honestly, I don't know.
Such a beautiful answer.
Heavy is the head that wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.